In this video, I'm going to share with you why knowledge can be a curse. Have you ever found yourself or considered yourself to be on a quest for knowledge? In 2014, I was in the process of exiting this reality when Archangel Michael appeared, opened up a portal, and my dad's higher self started yelling at me to stop doing what I was about to do. And one thing I don't often talk about from that experience was how my ego was absolutely shattered. Like it was, you know, I went through a massive ego death because from that experience, I instantly came to the realization that a belief about, I was raised in Roman Catholic Church, had the whole experience with the priests and everything. But eventually I started climbing to the top of a tree and telling my dad I wasn't going to go back. And eventually, doing it multiple times in a row, it worked. But then I kind of just, did my own thing where I would just, pray to Jesus, talk to Jesus whenever I wanted to, kind of thing. And I went off eventually considering myself to be more spiritual, right? But when this experience happened, it made me realize that the belief that I was carrying around about the afterlife for 34 years was absolutely wrong. And that was a very hard concept to accept. My whole paradigm was shattered from that experience. And the next thing I knew, I was like, okay, well, if I've been wrong my whole life about, what's going on the other side, then I need to start learning. And I went on this quest for knowledge. And if I had to describe it in one word, I would say obsessed. I became absolutely obsessed with just learning. I went it at the age of 34, from the age of 34 to 35, I read more books in that 1 year than I did my entire life. I bought 7 of the 8 or 9 Abraham Hicks books. I just couldn't stop reading. It got to the point where I would download, 8.5 hours of spiritual teachers on YouTube, put it on my phone, and I'd have a cable with an earphone going into my ear. I was in a steel shop, right? So even in the summertime, I'd have a hoodie on, right? Because I was just listening for, 8.5 hours a day, 5 days a week for, 2 years straight. I was just always, even when I got home, I would be, watching YouTube videos. And I remember one time I was trying to read a book while listening to a video at the same time. I was getting frustrated that I couldn't absorb knowledge from two places at once. I was like, why can't I listen to a video and read a book at the same time? But I just couldn't get enough of knowledge. And after 2015, I'd say 1 year after I first met Michael, my life turned into a paranormal circus. In 2015, I came to the realization I needed to heal, and the conventional route was not my thing. To this day, I've never seen a professional about, the D word or taken any pills. I started working with shamans and energy healers and using plant medicine. And from those experiences, not only have I learned things, but, I've had just out of body experiences and even more angelic visitations. I've had 2 visitations from the soul of Jesus, October 20th, 2020, when I was having a shower at my old man's house, and on April 8th, 2021, when I left my body on Third Beach when I was chilling with a buddy and went into the presence of the soul of Jesus. And the more that I've learned, what I've realized is that the more you learn, the more questions you have. And when it comes to being on a quest for knowledge, it's a never ending journey and it can consume you. And it's gotten to the point where, I'm still learning, I'm always learning, but I'm not obsessed about it. I'm one of those creators who will like your video and leave a comment on it because not only do I create content, but I like to see what the spiritual community is preaching these days. And so I do interact. I won't DM you and suggest you pay me money, but I will leave a like on your video or maybe just comment, right? I was just saying, the more I've learned, the more questions I've had. What I've realized about knowledge and how it can sometimes become a curse. For instance, you may have heard before you're incarnated, you're blank slated, you have your memory erased. And a lot of people look at that as a bad thing. But I now realize it's a good thing. Because imagine, what if you're on planet Earth and you think this is all there is. It helps you, kind of focus on your reality and be happy, right? But if you were to realize that, let's just say there's endless realities out there, and most of them celebrate life. Like you're honored. It's like a all-inclusive Mexican vacation. When you're born, it's like here's your housing and here's all this free technology, and the energy's so high vibe and everyone's nice and friendly, and there's no money. Everyone's supplied with food and clothing and everyone's happy, and you just travel and go, go on some free energy jet skis and do what you want. If you knew that all these other realities were so much better than this one, it kind of puts a damper on this reality. At least it has for me. Another truth that was hard to swallow for me was coming to the realization that heaven is not all peaceful roses and butterflies like you might expect. At least that's what I believed for, over 35 years of my life. But then I got to realize that there's a lot of politics and bullshit involved. And I was just like, oh man, after evaluating my life down here and the shit I've been through, I was like, Jesus, I was really just hoping we'd be chilling on a beach with an espresso martini, on a beach with three suns, and everything was all good. But now you're telling me there's politics and bullshit involved. It's like, oh my God, that was a hard truth to swallow. But knowledge, once you learn things or accept things as truth, even if it's not true knowledge, but once you accept things as truth, it's hard to undo that.